This video is a little bit different from what I normally talk about, and it's about this. This is the Fujifilm X100 Mark V, and this little guy has helped me rediscover my love of photography, and I'm just gonna tell you about it. How does that sound? So I first discovered my love of photography way back. I worked in Jessop's in a camera shop, and the very first proper camera I had was a film SLR, and that's how I learned to take photographs. You put in a film, you had to know what you were doing, you shot your shots, you got the film developed, and there was just something about the limitations of that camera. Like, I couldn't do anything to the photographs afterwards. I had to get my lighting right, I had to get my composition right. This doesn't look like a digital camera. This looks like something retro. This looks like something from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. This has a really old looking design, but this is a brand new, up-to-date modern camera. But it shoots photographs using a film emulation technique, which just looks like you shot your photographs with an actual film camera. You don't have to use it that way. You can shoot in RAW, you can shoot 4K video with it, but I got this camera specifically so I could recapture my initial love of photography when I learned to take photographs using a film camera. This is the Fujifilm X100v, and I've always loved Fuji's design aesthetic on their cameras. I just think it's stunningly beautiful and timeless. I got it specifically when I was going to be going to Scotland for a 2-day work project. That was kind of my excuse. This was my treat. I was only going to shoot stills in this camera, and I was going to post like 3 of them a day. And I've just had so much fun with it, and here's some of the photographs I've gotten with this camera over the last month. Photographs look so cool. They look like I actually took those with film, and the way I've been trying to use this is I don't shoot RAW. I only use those film emulations. I decide what stock I want to shoot with that day. I look up the recipe for it, I plug it in, and then I try not to shoot too many photographs. I only shoot JPEGs, and I don't do any edits, and it's meant that I've changed how I take photographs. It means I stop, I think about what my framing is, I think about what's in it. I care more maybe about the subjects and the emotion and the composition of the scene, rather than thinking about how I can process this to make it look better afterwards. It really has, yeah, it's brought back that magic of photography for me, which is just something really, really special. And I love this little camera. One of the things I like about this is this round strap. Rather than a flat strap, it doesn't matter what way you put it on. You can like wrap it around your hand really, really quickly. It didn't come with this strap, but there's a few websites make these and they're all handmade to order, but I just really, really like this combination, this tiny light camera chucked around, and you can forget about it because it's so light and it just hangs on. And one of the great things about the camera is it's fully weather sealed once you add this filter system on the front here, which means you can get it wet or you can fall in wet grass and it'll be perfectly fine. A couple of other features on this which are really, really cool is the viewfinder on this has this hybrid mode where I can look through this and it'll give me a digital view of what I'm about to take a photograph of, but I also flick this little switch, flicky flick, and all of a sudden I'm seeing an analog view, I'm seeing an optical view straight through. So I can literally use this like a film camera, where I can't actually see what the final photograph's going to look like when I'm taking the photograph. I simply put it up, I can check my framing, I can see what's in it, I can hit the shutter. Now yes, I can go in and preview it afterwards, but it just brings photography back to those elements, those raw elements of composition, emotion, subject and light that I think sometimes having live view and digital can completely destroy. Something about this camera which you might consider to be a limitation, but actually is just another thing which stops you from being distracted, is the fact that it's a fixed focal length lens. This lens in this, as I said, is equivalent to 35mm at f2.0. But actually, I think that's the perfect focal length to teach you a really good principle for photography, which is zoom with your feet. With a 35mm lens, in the right conditions, you can use it to take landscape shots, you can use it to take portrait shots, and this little lens is surprisingly good at macro shots. If I could only choose one focal length, it would probably be 35mm. It's the focal length that can do anything. I feel like there's a lot of me just saying something to the camera and then walking away. And actually, if you decide you don't like 35mm, you can set this little ring up in the front so it's a digital teleconverter, which allows you to switch between the equivalent of 35mm, 50mm and 70mm. I love the lens in this, and I love the fact that it limits you and just once again forces you to go back to the basics of photography. I'll walk away from the camera now. There's a bin there. Aha! So, one of the ways I really like to use this camera is just keep it in your hand, because it's a small camera, people don't notice it. Talk to somebody and then just point it at them, tap it, and it's so fast it will focus and take a picture like that. And I find that sometimes that will take the most awful photographs of people. But if you time it right, you can catch people unawares, and it just catches a side of them that sometimes it's very difficult to catch with a photograph. You can even do it yourself. A really nice feature about this is that this red button is replaceable. You can stick any color of button you want on. I went for red. And you can buy these on the internet. You can put on red ones, blue ones, ones made of wood or fancy materials. It's that little bit of extra personalization that makes all the difference. Should I walk away now?
Yeah.
I really like the way the dials on the top of this. You've got these nice manual dials. You can turn this one for the shutter speed, and then if you lift it and then turn it, you can change your ISO, and you've got your exposure compensation button on here. There's also a manual aperture control here, clickety click, which just adds this tactileness to the camera, which makes it seem even more hipster to use.